Jeff Gordon is the youngest auto racer ever to win the Daytona 500. Last month, at age 26, he won his second Winston Cup, the award given to the top NASCAR driver for the entire season. In a sport that is rapidly rising in popularity, Jeff Gordon is to auto racing what Tiger Woods is to golf. Not only because he has had so much success so early in his career, but also because he was groomed for this success from a very early age. Joining me now, the 1997 Winston Cup champion, Jeff Gordon. Welcome.
Well, thank you.
It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Fellow North Carolinian.
Yeah, that's right. I tell you, I love it in North Carolina, and of course, I didn't grow up there like you did, but it is a great place to raise a family.
I mean, from as early as I can remember, I mean, names like Petty and Junior Johnson and the whole list of those sort of Hall of Famers in NASCAR history were part of Cale Yarborough. I mean, you just go on and on and on.
Oh, the sport's so big around that area, and that's where it all started.
Yeah. What is it about you? I mean, if you look at Tiger Woods, you can understand sort of how early on in tennis you can look at certain people. Pete Sampras at 13, was away on his own in Florida, becoming a great tennis champion. How about you?
Pretty much the same story. My stepfather, my mother got me involved driving a race car when I was very young. About 4.5 years old, I stepped into what they call a quarter midget. It's sort of like a go-kart, but these cars you actually compete against other young kids, boys and girls, and so I started out very, very young and was sort of groomed along the way of maybe a Tiger or a tennis player, and that's kind of how it all started.
If you are Griffey Jr., you learn how to. It's about a swing.
Right.
With Tiger, it's about a swing. Even with Sampras, it's about a swing. What is it about car racing that you have to be the best?
Well, I think there is a little bit of natural talent that comes along with just being able to have the ability to get behind the wheel and have the aggressiveness, but yet be able to handle the car. But then it turns into a mental thing. It really is, how a person stays focused, especially now in the 500-mile races, trying to stay focused at 190 miles per hour, inches off another driver's bumper. For 500 miles. So it's a lot about your mental being and how you, focus your eyes, your mind, and everything that you do.
As you are going around the track, what are you thinking? What's in your head? I mean, at any particular time. I mean, obviously it depends on where the fellow drivers are. It depends on where it is in the race. It depends on a calculation of what's going to happen at the next pit stop, that kind of thing.
Right.
But what's the primary concern, focus, concentration?
And that's what's so amazing is that there's so much concentration, so much focus that I'm not thinking about anything else except for that race car and that racetrack and approaching the next turn, getting through that corner as fast as I possibly can. And then I'm thinking about what is the race car doing? How can I relate back to my team? Because I have radio communication to the team where I can say, hey, the car's maybe sliding going in the corner or the front end sliding in the middle of the corner, so that on our next pit stop, when I come down there, they make adjustments, but they have to do it in like 17, 18 seconds. They got to change 4 tires, put 20 gallons of fuel in it, and make these adjustments. So it's pretty complicated.
Some drivers understand cars, others don't. I mean, they know how to drive them, but they don't necessarily know how to take them apart and build them back. Which are you?
I'm pretty much the one that drives them. A long time ago when I was racing the quarter midgets and the go-karts and even the sprint cars when I was 15, 16 years old, very simple cars, easy to put together. And I could pretty much take one apart and put one together. But the stock cars, see, I didn't grow up around stock car racing. I only got into stock car racing when I was like 19 years old. So I'm now having to learn it, and it's certainly taken me quite a while. But I know the parts that I need to know to make it go fast, and I have a great team and great people that surround me that really know the cars inside and
In
out.
any given race, it's more the car, the driver, more the driver than the car.
Every racetrack and every race is different. To me, it's the people that really make a difference. It's the team that's behind the scenes that build the race cars, because everybody has pretty much the same guidelines as how to build the cars and what the rules are and the regulations on that car. But it's what they do with those rules and how they make the best out of everything that they do.
Emerson Fittipaldi and a lot of other Indy-type drivers have been here on this program, and they've all talked about the notion of going a curve and knowing exactly that if you can take that curve at 180 miles an hour, that you've got to know how, but if you take it at 181, you're going to spin out.
Right, exactly.
How do you know that?
It's knowing the edge, and to me that's the difference between a good race car driver and a great race car driver is finding that edge without going over it. And it's a very, very fine line, and I think along the way you go over that edge, and then if you're a good race car driver or a great race car driver, you find out how to get there time and time again without ever going over it again. And I don't know how to explain it.
But is it feel, or do you look at instruments, or what?
No, it's definitely feel. It's all feel. You're basically strapped into this race car as tight as you can possibly be. When I get in the race car, I almost can't even breathe. I'm so tight because once I'm up to speed, I almost feel like I've loosened back up, because I want, everything that's in that seat to feel those tires, to feel that racetrack, feel every crack, every bump, every little pebble, and then in my hands, basically I know exactly what that race car is doing, and I try to predict what it's going to do, and then try to react to what it does do.
What's the relationship between you and Earnhardt?
Good. I think Dale is a very talented race car driver, but he's been very good to me. I mean, he certainly lives up to his name at times, the Intimidator. But really, I have a lot of respect for him. And now, after winning my second Winston Cup championship, I have even more respect for him, because, it takes a lot out of you to go through these grueling seasons and to be battling for a championship. There's a lot of mental games that go on. And, here's, a guy, Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt, who have won 7 of these things. So it's amazing.
Is there any sense, because you're so young and so glamorous and charismatic and all those things that they say about you, a kind of resentment about you for those reasons? Too young, too handsome, too good, too young? I mean,
I've certainly heard those things a few times, but I can only take what I've been given and make the best out of it. And I've worked hard to get to this level, and I've had a lot of great things happen along the way to get me here. But I think I deserve it as much as anybody else. And I think if there are people out there that are saying that it's more of a jealousy thing than anything else, and I think once the race car drivers and the other teams and things have worked with me or raced against me, I think that they know, hey, this is a racer. This is a guy that deserves to be here.
what's the closest call you ever had?
Closest call? Well, I mean, I've hit quite a few walls, and like I said, along the way, you've got to go over that edge. And I've had some
And
serious.
when you do that, do you say, "Man, I've just bought the range. Thank you very much, and this is it for
the
me"?
thought does go through your mind.
Because you're spinning out of control.
Yeah,
And
I mean, that's, people always ask me, are you ever scared, or are you afraid of what you're doing out there is being dangerous? That thought never crosses my mind until I lose control. Then I'm like, I'm crazy. What am I doing in this thing? As I'm sliding backwards at 190 miles an
Fire
hour.
coming out of the back.
But you hit the wall and you bounce off of it, and you think, okay, I got through this one. You thank God and for all the, the safety. But really, especially NASCAR, our cars are the safest race cars out there.
Well, what if you're barreling down and all of a sudden in front of you, which would scare me, all of a sudden there's a collision and you cannot avoid it?
Well, you call that either bad luck or wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
But you know, those things happen.
Nothing to do with you.
But I'd much rather hit another race car than hit the wall.
Really?
I mean, the wall doesn't move. The other race cars, they'll move, and so the hits aren't near as hard.
How about Indy 500 racing?
I like it. I've always admired it and grew up thinking, hey, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be, is at the Indianapolis 500. But I didn't know enough about NASCAR Winston Cup racing at that time, and you know, the opportunity wasn't there for me, and it was with NASCAR. So I moved down south, and now I love the stock cars, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
But can you? I mean, people like Andretti has done a series of Formula One, Indy, NASCAR. Didn't Andretti do that NASCAR?
I mean, I think, you know, I hate to you know, say, well, times have changed and you can't do that anymore, because I think, you know, if you worked hard at it, that could happen. I think a driver these days could you know, run all three series and be successful at. But for me, you know, once you get into this level of competition and this type of a race car, it's really hard to start changing and doing, because Indy cars and Formula One cars are so much different than a stock car. And once you get a feel for one type of car, it's hard to teach a dog, you know, a new trick in our business, that's for sure.
But I mean, just take Formula One for a second. I mean, Indy's sort of representing what it does. Europe and all those great open road championships. Does that have any romantic appeal to you?
You know, I've had some pretty serious offers, and I've had some ones that have certainly made me think about them an awful lot. But, you know, for me, it would just really have to make a lot of sense. And right now, I'm winning races, I'm winning championships.
Yeah, right.
You know, to me, things are going well for a reason, and I believe things do happen for a reason. But, you know, I would love to get in to an Indy car or get into a Formula One car and just give it a ride.
Well, haven't you done that once in your life?
You know, I haven't really.
You've never been in a Formula One car, just to say, take it around the track?
Never been in a Formula One car, and I think
team somebody doesn't want to.
I've talked to him about doing it.
If Roger Penske calls tomorrow and say, I just want to come to Indy tomorrow, I just want you to take a spin.
Well, I couldn't do it tomorrow,
Okay,
but maybe, you know.
But Saturday you'll be there.
I don't want people to think, you know, hey, if I go get into an Indy car, that means I want to go IndyCar racing. I just like a lot of different types of race cars.
You don't want the NASCAR fans to think you're unfaithful.
No, because my heart is in NASCAR Winston Cup racing, and I plan on being in this sport for many years to come and working on, you know, the next championship and the next win on a race. And so, you know, those things are neat and fun. And I think the thing that intrigues me the most about Formula One is you always hear these are the world's best race car drivers. And as a race car driver, I want to compete against the best in the world.
Do you believe in your own mind, knowing what racing is about, that you are the best race car driver in the world?
No.
Who is that? If it's not you, who is it?
Well, I don't know if there is the best race car driver in the world. I think you can have the best Formula One race car driver or the best stock car. Right. I mean, they're all totally different. You could take a Michael Schumacher and bring him into NASCAR, and you know, things might be a little bit different. You might take me or you know, Al Unser Jr. and put him in a Formula One car, and you know, if it's not the right situation with the right team at the right time, it's going to take a lot of time to adapt.
What do you drive at home?
I drive a Chevy Blazer, old boring Chevy Blazer, but gets me from point A to point B.
That's it? That's all you have? Come on.
Hey, you'd be amazed at how well those Chevy Blazers handle.
You don't have a sports car? You don't have a...
You know,
you don't have a Porsche? You don't have a Corvette? You don't have a...
I don't really.
If I went to Lake Norman tomorrow, and went to your garage, I'd see one vehicle?
Well, my wife has all the good cars.
See, come on. What's in her garage?
She has a Jaguar, one of the new Jaguars.
Right.
And
a new one?
The new XK8, which is a fun car.
Have you driven it? Of course you have. What else is in the garage?
But it's her car, so I don't get to drive it fast.
All right. What's this about, endorsements? What else is in the garage?
And then a BMW.
We've got a BMW, don't we? So
BMW.
What else?
That's all I've got at home, but I've got a a small garage or like a building that I have a few little hot rod cars.
I bet you do.
I don't I've always wanted a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, but something's always come up. I spent my money on an airplane. I wanted to be able to get places fast and make the most of my time. So
what did you buy or rent or whatever you do?
Yeah, I bought a lease on a Lear 35.
On a Lear 35.
Yeah. I don't need a lot of room because it's usually just 2 or 4. Usually just me and my wife or just a couple.
She
other
goes
people.
to every race.
She goes to every race, and we get there really fast, and that's what counts.
Why is this sport so popular?
I mean, I can't explain it 100%, but I think the fans really relate to the drivers and relate to what they see out there. And what they see is a Chevy Monte Carlo or a Ford Thunderbird. They see a fairly stock automobile out there that they can go and buy, at their dealership.
It's that connection with the fact it's something they do. They drive.
Definitely. And then, the sponsors' involvement now, they directly see the loyalty of these fans. I mean, if DuPont Automotive Finishes is on the side of a race car, then those people, they go and they say, hey, I want DuPont Automotive Finishes, and whatever else it might be. If it's Pepsi, I mean, I want to, if I'm going to drink something, I want to drink a Pepsi because it's on a race car. Yeah. So that loyalty goes a long way.
After Formula One, I think they drink milk. I think. What do they drink after the Indy 500?
The Indy 500, they drink milk.
That's milk too. And what about the NASCAR?
I drink Pepsi, so
we love our sponsors, don't we?
Pepsi or water.
Why are you getting into your blazer? Jeff, good luck. It's great to have you here. Thanks
Appreciate
very much.
It. My pleasure.
Good to see you. Jeff Gordon, back in a moment. Stay with us.